Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome to a truly special online event today. It's called Heal Your Creativity Wound with Sacred Painting. Transform fear into inspiration and awaken the power of soulful self-expression. My name is Stephen Dinan. I'm the founder and president of the Shift Network, and I'm really delighted to be here today, partially because I know that creativity is such an important portal into our awakening and transformation, and we've never actually focused on painting in one of our introductory events like this. And we're going to get to dive into this with one of the real world's pioneers in painting as a spiritual practice. Her name is Whitney Freya. She's the founder of Creative Frequency Coaching. She's an author, inspired living expert. I met her a number of years ago through another Shift faculty member and just was immediately taken by her depth and authenticity and brightness. And I think you're really going to enjoy. And if the time with her, and if you want to go further, we do have a brand new course with Whitney called Heal Through Sacred Painting that we'll share a little bit more about in the latter part of the hour, so you can dive into this as a real transformational journey. So with that said, Whitney, thanks so much for joining today.
Thank you, Stephen. I am so happy to be here.
Great. Well, I always like to start these times together with a little bit about your journey and what really brought you into painting as a transformational path and journey, and share a little bit about that before we get into some of what you're going to be sharing today.
Absolutely. I loved hearing you say that I'm a pioneer in the spiritual painting, because it has been 30 years and it often felt like I was a pioneer, right? Because the predominant ideas around creativity are based in what I call the old creative story or the old paradigm, where, painting was only seen as valuable or worthy of your time or worthy to develop if someone was going to pay you money in significant amounts, ideally if it included benefits, which of course usually didn't. So then people were encouraged to move on to more serious and practical things. And so that idea and story around creativity is where I was my whole growing up. Like at age 9, I had the art teacher stand next to me and my mom and tell my mom that drawing wasn't my thing. And what I heard as a 9-year-old was that I didn't inherit that creative artistic DNA, right? That old story. And so I became this out loud wannabe artist. I mean, when I went back to my 20th high school reunion, my friends were like, "You do what?" Because even 20 years later, they remembered what a loud wannabe artist I was. And so even in college, like I was getting a Bachelor of General Studies so I could take art and business classes, which is funny now because the, Econ 202 completely weeded me out. And then the art classes to take what I thought I could handle. I thought mixed media collage, that was something I could do. But in order to take that class, you had to take drawing 101, 102, painting 101, 102. And I was just like, well, I can't do that. Like it was just a hard stop. I can't do that. And so it wasn't until I had graduated from college, I had been selling books door to door for 3 summers, and I picked up a book called Zen and the Art of Making a Living by Lawrence G. Bolt. And in it, he said, unless you adopt an artist mentality, you will not be able to create the life of your dreams. And here I am, right? Like 3 years out of college, University of Michigan, a great college, selling books door to door. And I'm like, well, clearly, the real world is a little bit more like a blank canvas and a multiple choice test. And where does one go to develop this artist mentality? And literally in the margins of my book, that book, which my middle daughter, who's the same age I was when I bought the book based on the date that's in it, is now reading it and reading back to me like, "Mom, look what you wrote here." And I'm still doing the same things. Like the seed was planted in that phrase, "You will not be able to create the life of your dreams unless you adopt an artist mentality." And that is like the only thing I knew for sure, that I wanted a dreamy life. I was very convicted after selling books door to door for those 2 to 3 summers that there was something new I was supposed to do. And I was going to sell books until I came up with the idea. And this was it. So I sold a ton of books that next summer and took the money and bought, like, honestly, what was a crack house in Nashville in a up and coming neighborhood that was still kind of the hood, and bought this house, renovated it, turned it into an art center, opened the doors, still hadn't painted on a canvas. So like I was completely in trust land. I was overtaken with this knowing that life is meant to be lived as art. And and that has never wavered. 30 years later, I still get super animated. I could be sick or whatever and get on a Zoom to share this process with people, and I just light up because it really is, Stephen, this like pivotal shift, which is why I love Shift Network. It's such a huge shift you can make when you bump up again, maybe right now, to that I'm not creative. I can't even draw a straight line. When you transmute that into, oh, actually, I create in each and every moment. I'm creating the art that is my life, and I can do it more consciously, and I can learn how to create a life that is more in alignment with who I am, which is what equals a dreamy life, through playing with color at the canvas. Like, heck yeah.
I love that. And so really it's like the canvas is just your practice ground for designing a new you in many ways. You're actually sculpting your life, you're creating your life out of an artistic mentality um, as a practice by working through the paint. That's really beautiful.
Yeah. It's almost like if, we're thinking about our life force energy. Like I go to the canvas to fill up. It's like the gas tank. It's the energy
Mhm.
work for me. And I've come to understand over the last 30 years that the creative frequency that I invite people into is resonant with any change or transformation you desire. So many of us right now are at these threshold moments, new chapters, new beginnings, and how to meet those opportunities, which is what they are opportunities, to do it so creatively, to do so with your creative frequency amplified, with that spark ignited, that can change everything. So,
Mm. Well, let's talk about how to pivot because so most people probably are importing a certain amount of the old, like, oh, I'm not good enough at this, and then like shifting out of that mode into like this is like this just free form of expression and creating an artistic mentality for life. So, where do you start with people like in terms of deprogramming some of the performance anxiety and the self-judgment that people are often bringing to an artistic process?
absolutely. So, this canvas here is an example of a first layer. And as you can see, like I put some paper on here, kind of like you do, when you're painting on a wall or something. I spilled and dripped and scribbled, and this is how we start, just plain. And that's what so many people tell me is they just don't know how to begin. And I love that because how I start every single painting and how we're going to start in our course together is playful and easy. And it's more like summoning up your inner 2-year-old, you know? Uh, and I always advise people, like, I have a lot of people that come to me that maybe they're corporate or like kind of the accountant type, and they understand that they want to kind of liberate their flow. And so they come to me, and I'll often invite them to paint with their non-dominant hand.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's how little it matters, right? So to start with, first, it's understanding that any fear you have around painting is connected to the old story. And we are here to announce that we have shifted out of that story into the new one, that you are creative. And that if you are holding a belief that you're not, it's not about having to paint or having to be crafty or dance or drum. It's that the dissonance between I'm not creative and the truth of who you are causes friction or tension that we don't need friction or tension, self-imposed at least. Right? So let's liberate that and neutralize that and get you to a place where it's like, oh, I'm creative and here's how I create, because we're creating every day. We're all solving problems, we're all in relationships or perhaps have families, are navigating this world. It takes a lot of creativity. And so this is medicine for right now in a huge way.
So I hear there's just that first principle, the reclamation that you are already creative takes away some of that performance anxiety. What about when there are like things that are still emotionally charged that come up even after you try to make that pivot? Do you sort of recommend working with that in a certain way or expressing it in a certain way to sort of like move the energy?
Yeah, I love that question. So, the creative frequency and the way I teach painting and the way I just move through the world is as much as possible from a non-dual perspective.
Hmm.
So, whatever comes up is fine. And actually, I tell people in my online courses and trainings, I'm like, I hope you meet up with the resistance. Like when we're on Zoom live, and if my students get to a place like, I can't do this, or this is triggering these emotions. It's like, yes, that is a good thing, because somehow whatever has triggered you, whatever is being triggered, is not in alignment with you as an infinitely creative being. And so it's coming up so you can see it. And so you can look at it through the lens, through the energy of creativity that only knows possibility, that believes that everything is here to support whatever it is you're creating. And contrast is the first design principle in art, what they teach
Hmm.
at art school. Like we learn through contrast. So I love the contrast. Not that I want, everyone in the course like bawling and crying and, all these emotions coming up. And this is where you can go to transmute those triggers, the frustration, the patterns that come up that are holding you back. You take it to the canvas. This is the practice. And in the time you spend at the canvas, expressing yourself and allowing the canvas to be a mirror to show you if it's your inner critic or your perfectionism or an old voice, from way in the past from somebody else in your head, you will connect with that guidance as you paint, because the painting practice aligns you with that creative frequency, which is aligned with abundance and prosperity and spaciousness and possibility and beauty and transformation. And so you cannot go to the canvas, engage in a creative act, and stay in a place of, I suck, it's never going to work, we're all doomed. It's actually not.
Or if you have that voice, then you're depicting it and then also bringing in the other sides. It sounds like it's like I like it when people talk about improv. They always say the answer is always yes. So it sounds like it's very similar. You want to just the answer is yes to whatever is coming up.
Exactly. Absolutely. I actually had a book, I can't remember, years ago about improv, exactly that. And I understood the stage, the canvas, they're all the same, because the way we do anything is the way we do everything. So when you come to the canvas with me and learn how to reclaim your expressive power, like
Mhm.
whatever you want to express, whatever's inside of you is what is meant to be expressed, right? And we get to learn this language of sacred symbols, engaging with color, pattern, actual symbols, really like expands. Like I see it like casting the net. It's almost like moving through your day with this massive network or sense of interconnectedness that happens when you engage at this level.
Mm.
Come to understand over the years that everyone is constantly being offered guidance through this intuitive, creative, right brain, present moment side of ourselves, not the logical linear that's, clicking the right link, getting to the right place at the right time. Spirit communicates to us in the present moment. And when we're not attached, like rigid into this is the way it's supposed to go, right?
Mhm.
So this creative practice is great at loosening up those tight spaces and creating a container that is you, where when you get the inspiration, you're able to flow with it because you've practiced that at the canvas.
Mm. I want to ask a little bit more about the colors and shapes and symbols, and because I imagine as you could start to kind of overthink it a little bit, like, oh, this color means this to me, or but is there like a little bit of a process of seeing like how does your psyche want to like project itself out into these new forms, or you try to make it like less cognitive in terms of like, oh, I'm going to work with this symbol because that might open X, Y, or Z.
Yeah. So really the first step is getting into a space of playfulness, of
Mhm.
radical self-acceptance, of openness, of receptivity, right? It's kind of like if you want to plant a seed in the garden, um, you got to take the seed out of the packet, but then you also have to clear the ground, right? So that there's open space. So you want to really start with the playfulness, and then you're tuning into like following your own energy. And so when a color or a shape like gets you excited or it feels good, then you invite in curiosity. So it's playfulness and then curiosity. And then learning the language of symbols and colors and things like that and what different colors mean. That is easy and it can flow and it can be as irreverent as, what is what does turquoise represent, right? But that's a process of like constant exploration. But to start with, it's that playfulness, the curiosity, the openness and receptivity. And as you nurture that part of your awareness that really thrives on the unknown, right?
Mm.
So creativity is a process of going into the unseen realm and bringing bits and parts of that into the scene. And so we're becoming more and more of like the vessel, the hollow bone as we paint.
Mm.
And so that's really the focus. And that's why, this is so complementary to a spiritual or a shamanic practice, because this is what the artists do. Like I remember listening to Terrence McKenna speak back in the late 80s, and he has a talk, The Artist is Shaman, and how the artists and the shamans are both the ones that go into the unknown and bring back like, hey, here's where we're going, here's what's coming. And so we do have an unique opportunity right now, for every single person that reclaims that creative, expressive, liberated energy, that we are able to access more and more of what is possible. Because this is another huge thing that we can all really imagine into and call in, is a world where as humans we remember that what we focus on expands. I'm sure you have had a million conversations around that, just in your career. And so at the canvas we practice that, right? We practice on focusing on what we want. You can paint intentions into the canvas. It becomes like spells. The canvas can become a cauldron, or a looking glass. And this is where you become comfortable with the unknown and seeing, like the symbolism, the truth, the essence of things, rather than, the actual material, show me the facts kind of information. So you can imagine right now how powerful it can be to be a person who flows and feels comfort even surrounded by unknown. Because I think
Mm.
we're all there,
Yeah, very cool. I love just the open-ended playfulness with which you approach this, and also just I can feel a complementarity with all the other more traditional meditative kind of practices as well. I want to ask about the symbols too. I know you're going to bring a symbol in that can also be a portal into kind of freeing your mind a bit into painting. You want to bring that in now, the Freya knot?
Yes, I'd love that. So if any of you watching have just any kind of piece of paper, piece of mail, ballpoint pen, pencil, anything at all, I want to introduce you to a symbol. And let me share a little bit about the story, because this is a great example of how symbols want to show up and guide you. So in 2012, I left my marriage, got divorced. The husband suggested that I change my name, which was fine. And so I opened up, like, the name has to find me, right? So about 3 or 4 months later, I was in a conversation with a woman named Dancing Hands at a bead store about an hour and a half from where I live. And I asked her if she was Phyllis, the owner, because I saw her business card there. And she's like, well, I go by Dancing Hands. That's the name my Native American teacher gave me. And I'm like, well, I'm open looking for a new name now too, right? And there was like a Celtic festival. She pulled out a piece of paper, Whitney, Bridget, Whitney, Whitney Freya. You should be Whitney Freya. And I was like, I am. I mean, I walked out of that bead store, Whitney Freya, and I had to get in the car and search who is Freya, which was a little humbling at first. First comes up like the goddess of love and beauty. And I'm just like, okay, game on, here we go, because it felt so right. So at that point, I was rebranding myself. And so it became whitneyfreya.com. And the woman I was working with, she and I were on, I guess like Skype or something, like it was back then. And we're like, we should look for a symbol for Freya, because I was launching a line of sacred symbol stencils and this whole, invitation to learn the symbolic language. And she texted me one, she goes, this looks interesting. And it was Freya's symbol. And it was a symbol that I had created with two other friends at a workshop on 12/21/12 in Joshua Tree at a retreat that I had co-organized. And we had put these two hearts together to create a diamond in the middle and the infinity symbols. I'm about to show it to you. And we were all like, where's the tattoo parlor? Holy moly, has anyone seen this symbol before? I mean, it was so dramatic. And so it showed up as Freya's symbol just a month or two after accepting the name
Whoa. So
Freya.
you did the symbol and then she found it, or somebody found it on the internet?
I had already created the symbol and been like,
Wow.
where's the tattoo parlor, which it's now tattooed in a pattern all over my foot. And then independently, this friend Michelle texted me, this is an interesting symbol for Freya, and it was the same symbol.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So that felt like a big thumbs up, from the universe, as well as an affirmation. Pay attention to the symbols and the images that attract you, that repeat each other frequently, that stand out in some unusual way. There is a message being offered there. So I love, 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 love exploring that whole journey and magic as well. So I will show you all the symbol. And like I said, if you want to follow along, please do. And I'm also going to share a short guided meditation after we draw it to give you an opportunity to connect to it yourself, because symbols aren't linear, right? They speak to us in this very multidimensional way. So the first invitation, and I'm just going to paint right on here because this is what we do. We layer, we paint over and over the canvases. So I want to invite you to paint a big heart on whatever it is you're painting on. Okay, so it's just a heart, and it doesn't have to be perfect. You can notice your own inner dialogue as you do this. And then I'm going to dip in just another color, and we're going to do another heart that's upside down. And you can see how the tips become reference for the other heart. So what we have here now is two hearts from above and below. We also have what I like to think of as this diamond in the middle. Okay. And we also have these two infinity symbols. So you can draw this symbol as well with two infinity symbols. And then years later, I was like, I feel like there's a Metatron's cube in there somewhere. You go like this and you've got Metatron's cube. You go like this and you've got the symbol for the atom, which is energy, which is frequency, which is everything. So I want to offer a short meditation to connect to this symbol. And perhaps this is going to activate within you right now a whole new awareness. It's more like a remembering, like, oh yeah, right, I am infinitely creative. This symbol is an activation. So I want to invite you into your own experience with it. So I'm going to make sure you can hear the singing bowl to call us in. So you can connect to your breath. You can keep painting or drawing the symbol. Perhaps you feel called to trace the infinity symbols or the hearts or the diamond in the middle. And wherever you are, feel the ground underneath you, the way you're being supported. And imagine the earth energy, Gaia, pulsing, her heartbeat deep, deep in the earth under your feet, under your chair. You can remember into the truth of all the ways that the earth beneath you loves you, nurtures, nourishes, protects, clothes and shelters you. Feel yourself air, fire, water, earth, elemental. You are as much a part of her nature as the trees outside your window, the blades of grass, the flowers. And send your love and gratitude down into the earth, and then feel her coming up. Almost imagine like her arms reaching up, up, up to embrace you, forming the tip of the upside down heart. So you're feeling this love coming from below, wrapping your physical being in the frequency of love. Inhaling, exhaling. And then with your next exhale, allow your awareness to rise. Maybe you can imagine you're a soaring eagle spiraling in the thermals as you go up and up and up through the clouds until you're looking down on this beautiful planet and become aware of the sparkly starlight all around you. And imagine if you could touch the edge, like try and find the edge of the spaciousness in your imagination. It just goes and goes and goes. This is the quantum field. This is the field of pure potentiality, where everything exists as energy before matter. This is where your creative frequency wants to guide you, wants to offer you source for inspiration, ideas, solutions, next steps, wisdom, guidance. You can imagine the energies, the stars celebrating that you are remembering the co-creative relationship you are in with this infinite realm. And imagine all of that love from above coming down, down, down to embrace you until the bottom of the upward facing heart is surrounding you. And now you are in the center, in this diamond space. The union of above and below, the seen and the unseen, light and matter, with this infinite current flow of energy, whatever material, elements you need for your creations, whatever inspiration, energy, connections, awareness you need for your creations, personal, professional, physical, energetic. This is the truth of who you are. You're here to co-create from a place of love with the infinite above and below you. And as you look at your symbol or draw it or imagine yourself drawing it in your mind's eye, which part of the symbol speaks to you? Maybe it's the infinity symbol. Maybe you can almost feel in your body this energy, this flow, this current from above and below cycling through you. Just like when you sit next to a river, you're never looking at the same water. Constant flow of possibility. Or perhaps it's the hearts. If you took away the love, if you forgot how loved you are, that diamond becomes more like a box. Maybe it feels sticky, or you know that sense of being trapped or stuck. But when you remember into this flow, this current of life force energy being offered to you in each and every moment to create the art that is your life in a way that lights you up, how might life look differently? Perhaps you see the 4 quadrants formed by the 2 hearts, like a medicine wheel, the directions, or Metatron's cube in there, the atom. So receive now whatever wisdom or guidance or gift is being offered to you by this symbol. And remember that at any point from now on, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling stuck, you can, in just a couple of moments, feel yourself supported and loved by the earth underneath you and inspired by the spaciousness all around you. Reconnect to that diamond space, you as the treasure that you seek, with this infinite support flowing through you in every moment. And ask for your next step from that frequency. So perhaps you want to offer gratitude for the insight or the gift you received. Reconnect to your breath. Feel yourself where you are right now. The perfect embodiment of the seen and the unseen here to create in the material realm, inspired by what's possible. And so it is.
Love that. Thank you for that. Yeah, it was coming through for me of just how creativity is really the bridge from heaven to earth. And it's like that it's just like that portal of, the upward current and the downward current crossing together. And just to really remind myself of that, because I can get a little bit more linear and focused, and how important keeping that portal is open every day.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, there isn't really an element of life as a human, whether it's business and taking care of the physicalness of our reality, that doesn't benefit from a balance, a harmonization of the logic and the intuitive, the creative and the structure. We need both. And it's just that we were all in the Western world raised in an environment that largely rewarded and spotlighted the logical and the linear. And so this is a restoration back into balance, the way we were meant to be always.
Probably going to be especially important as we go into this AI era, and a lot of the logic is faster with machines anyways.
So many things. I mean, we have so many more solutions than problems.
Yeah.
So let's focus on that, right? That's the creative frequency. That's what I love, to liberate from within as many people as possible.
Well, I'd love for you to share a little bit more about, we sort of did it a bit there, but like how you're combining more meditative practices with what you're doing on the canvas and kind of flowing back and forth, so that the whole process is really an active deepening and self-reflection.
Yeah. So one of the things I realized early on is that because the creative hemisphere of the brain is also present, and myself and so many people that I know, talk about like, oh, it's hard for me to meditate. It's hard to stop my mind, all of those things. And what I love is that the painting practice that I share actually distracts the monkey mind. It's not about silencing it. It's about giving us an opportunity to enter into that dialogue with the color and the drips as they drip and the layers as they layer, and become present just by becoming delighted with the colors that you're playing with. So the act of painting brings you present. They've shown that Dr. Herbert Benson in the 70s wrote a book called The Breakout Principle. And they found that once you do the research, if you sever all previous thought processes and get out of the left hemisphere into the right, that's when you get the aha. They found right before anyone has a stroke of insight that there's a spike in gamma brainwaves, and gamma brainwaves are distinct because the entire neocortex lights up. Like they used to just kind of erase gamma brainwaves because they weren't a nice line. And then they realized that was the juice. Like that was the intention, was to get yourself into that state where you're pulling from all these disparate memories and facts and things that you've read or seen to come together and have that, that culmination, so to speak, or that aha moment. So this is what we're doing, is giving our minds and our brains and our beings a time to rest and become present and dance with these energies of possibility. And when you do that, your body comes into homeostasis, you become present in the present moment, you don't have the baggage, you don't have stress and worry. And that's why from that place, you can access your truth, whether it's what to serve for dinner or how to bring up whatever around the dinner table, or the big idea for whatever it is, professional or personal, all about balance. So
I'd love to ask you a little bit more about like the heart frequency. I know, so, it's kind of implied by the Freya knot and the sort of the symbolism there of like how the heart is really at the center of our creative expression. Maybe share a little bit about how you, as working with sacred painting, how you're accessing the heart frequency and sort of having that infuse what you're doing.
absolutely. Well, besides the fact that the word art is in heart, I mean, right? It's like hiding in plain view. Yeah. So another kind of element of discordance that we all experience, and all of us at some time or another, is that we're heavily in our heads. And I talk to so many people that say this, like, oh, I'm so in my head. We're trying to figure it out. We're trying to think through. We're trying to plan. We're trying to schedule. And all of that is necessary. And it can be really easy to just stay there and for that to become the default. And what the painting practice does is it drops you down into your heart for a couple of reasons. One is, again, you're speaking this language that is not linear logical. So our left brain is like the file cabinet. Your logical mind has filed away everything that you've read or learned in the past and the people you've met, and it draws from that to project into the future. So then we have our present moment mind that is meant to balance that. And that's the part of us that understands how to approach an unexpected or an unknown or a new situation, anywhere where there's unknown. Because the logical mind doesn't have a past experience to pull on to assure you that it's going to be safe to take action along the lines of this new idea in the future, because it's got nothing to guarantee you that you're going to be successful and rewarded and praised and all the things, right? So that's where most of us get stuck. Like we get the big idea, and then we turn to our logical mind and say, okay, so I got really excited about this. Can I do it? And that's why so many of you experience the like, oh, well, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. I'm not qualified. I'm not tall enough or short enough or, whatever it is. And so in the present, you don't have past future. In the present moment, we receive our clearest guidance. And then the logical mind is meant to create the structure, get you what you need, whether it's material, connections, all the things to help you create into reality whatever it is that came through in the present, that lights you up, that feels resonant, that is affirmed over 24, 48 hours. Now it's time to put the logical mind to work, and we got to make this happen, right? So we've kind of been taught the process in reverse, which is why so many people feel creatively stuck and why the creativity wound is so prevalent, because we're waiting for it to feel safe and guaranteed. And your creative spirit is like chomping at the bit to dance with the unknown, right? And to call in more of what's possible for you. But you have to get in alignment with that frequency. And so that's why the process I teach, while in our 7-week course, we are going to paint some pretty pictures, and you will love, love, love what we're going to paint together. And I'm sure you will hang them on your wall. People may even be asking you to paint some for them. And first, most importantly, the foundation of this practice is playfulness and flow and diverging and releasing and surrendering. Does that sound familiar? Right?
That's great. I love everything you're sharing. So, before we talk a little bit more explicitly about your course, which I'm super excited about, is anything more you wanted to say on working with fear? Since obviously it's like a desire for safety is often tethered to fear, and so there's like fear is often that thing that holds us back from our spirit expressing. How you work with that in a deeper way with painting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's really one of the reasons, the biggest reason that I teach painting, because when I first opened my art center in 96, I had mosaics and we did paper mache and paper making and the Sculpey clay. And, we did all the things as well as painting. But what I noticed over the years is that my students that did everything but the painting would still express fear of the canvas. And I think that fear is that being seen. The canvas feels like, oh, I'm so important. I'm painting on a canvas. They're afraid of people judging or telling them they're bad, all the things, just like the teacher telling me that drawing wasn't my thing. And so when I shifted, I moved into a much smaller space. So I couldn't have all the supplies. And I decided to focus on painting because my students that painted weren't afraid to do anything else. So because so many of you are nervous, like if I was to reach through the computer screen right now and hand you a blank canvas and a brush and paints and say, go, the first instinct would be like, no, 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 right? That's indicative of how uncomfortable we've been conditioned to be with the unknown. We want to know step by step and we want to control our outcome. And so if you've ever thought or learned about yourself or read something like the risk of holding on too tightly or trying to control things that you can't control or other people or all those things, this is where you can learn to let go and get into that space of freedom and flow and intuition. And we're going to learn how to follow the guidance from the canvas, not imposing what we want, but allowing to come through what's wanting to come through. So, so the process is one where you absolutely are learning painting skills and techniques, but you're doing it from this intuitive place and you're doing it from a place of love, not fear. And what you come to understand through this process is that very often when you get curious, remember, playful and curious about the fears, that once you go underneath them, there's really nothing to be afraid of, right?
Beautiful.
I remember being really stressed at the beginning of my art center career because I was always just making ends meet at the end of each month. And then I asked myself, what are you afraid might happen? And when I drilled down, it was end up homeless in the gutter. I'm like, okay, I don't think I have to be afraid of that. Right? So we're learning how to transmute fear into energy, fear into excitement, and to understand that the fear of painting is connected to our fear of the unknown, the fear of making a mistake, the fear of doing it wrong. And in this process, we paint over and over and over. Like I have canvases that I'm looking at, canvases that hang in my house that have had 3, 4, one of them has had like 15 paintings on them. And literally, I'll have a painting in my house that is connected to a vision or an intention that I have. And then that comes to fruition. And often I'll take it down and I paint something totally new on it. So there's no permanence. Like I would invite people to subscribe to the ideas that I do around, is a painting ever finished? There's always possibility. There's always room to paint over, to add, and just like in life, right?
Yeah, it's a great metaphor for life. Really beautiful. Well, I want to talk more explicitly about your upcoming course. We've referenced it a few times, but I think it's going to be an amazing opportunity to really take this on as a practice that is liberating, that is fun and healing and transformational, and really opens new channels for expression in life. So we're very excited that Whitney is teaching this brand new program for Shift. It's called Heal Through Sacred Painting. Transform your creativity wounds and heal your heart to claim your power to shape the future. You can see it at the URL sacredpaintingcourse.com, sacredpaintingcourse.com. It's a 7-week program, and I'd love for you, Whitney, just in your own words, share about some of your intentions and what people will come away with.
Absolutely. So I'm really excited about this course because at this point in my career, I am able to take basically the last 30 years of exploration at the canvas and give you the best of the best so that in 7 weeks, trust me, you will go from, are you sure I can do this? To, oh my gosh, I started like 3 paintings in between class 6 and 7, and I'm loving this so much. You will be like uncorked enthusiasm for your creative spirit. So we are going to start at the very beginning, color mixing, this first layer, getting into the playfulness, playing with color, understanding how to blend not only illuminated bright colors, but also the shadowy colors, understanding the role and nature of complementary colors, how to create a dynamic, interesting, playful, fun first layer. And then we explore things like pattern and connect it to patterns in our life. I believe that we all have a palette and a shape, or like a pantheon of shapes. And so it's also an invitation to get to know yourself better.
Mhm.
So we learn all of these different techniques and prompts to align with the playfulness and create a super interesting first layer. And we're going to be painting on 2 different canvases all the time. So there's an opportunity to invite in radical objectivity and radical acceptance. And so you get to play with different ways of creating that first layer. And then we're going to paint 2 different symbols.
Let me actually read out the module title so people can follow along a little better. So I think you're kind of getting deeper in
Okay.
it.
Yep.
Module 1 was called Introduction and Creative Foundations, Overcome Fear and Begin Your Sacred Painting Practice. In Module 2, Embodying Flow, Explore Expressive Forms and Patterns to Deepen Creative Trust. And then were you just about to start on Module 3, Anchoring Presence, Paint Buddha to Cultivate Calm and Inner Peace?
Yeah. Yeah. So the 2 symbols that have been the most vital for my journey, we're going to paint in this course. And the first one is the Buddha. I have been painting Buddhas since 2012. The first time I painted a Buddha, I ended up, it was actually like hour 23 of a 24-hour paint jam. So I'd been up painting for 23 hours, started this Buddha painting, ended up with this teeny tiny brush doing this fine detail. And I remember looking at myself and just being like, I didn't even know I had a brush this small, because I am kind of broad brushstroke girl. And I realized that, wow, what we paint translates kinesthetically. Like I felt that inner calm, from the Buddha. And so I painted so many Buddhas because I wanted to feel that level of calmness and inner peace. So we're going to paint Buddha, yes, in lesson 3. And yeah, by the end of lesson 1, you'll already be over the fear and all the things. So
Great. Then we get into Module 4, Shadows and Light, Paint an Owl to Transform Challenges into Wisdom.
So then on the other canvas that you started, we're going to paint an owl. Owl is my main animal totem. The owl can see things in the dark that no one else can see. Owl is a beautiful medicine to use if you're in any kind of underworld experience, like a challenge or an undesirable experience. Owl can help you see what you haven't been able to see before. And then as we paint it, we're understanding and learning how to create the depth between light and shadow as we paint the owl, which is the master of light and shadow.
Then Module 5, Symbols and Intuition, Personalize Your Sacred Canvas with Divine Guidance.
So at this point, you've like completely settled into this painting practice. You're no longer afraid. You're picking up on symbols. So in between our weekly sessions, you will be tuning into collecting, taking photos of symbols, things that pop up unusually. And we add these symbols into our canvas to add those energies. So when you paint, like when I paint over this canvas, which we will do in the course, the energy of this symbol will still be there. The playfulness will still be there. Words and symbols of intention will still be there. So in this course, we're adding in kind of like if you were creating an altar or putting medicine in your medicine bag. This is what we're doing with symbols on each of the canvases.
Module 6, Radiance and Expansion. Enhance your vibrational frequency and shine your creative light.
So I couldn't resist playing with metallics. So we're going to play with metallics, illumination. Some of the last steps in a painting or, bringing a painting to a level of conclusion or a pause is making the lights lighter and the darks darker. And then we're going to speak to, on a symbolic level, how your creative spirit is here to illuminate your path, how you can allow the processes we learn at the canvas to help you understand what you are here to create and shine, the light you're meant to shine, so to speak.
And finally, Module 7, Celebration and Reflection. Deepening your sacred painting practice and reuniting with your creative spirit.
So at this point, we will explore how to add those final details that really make paintings pop or add that extra detail that is so much fun. And then we're going to take time fully to celebrate and honor the creative liberation and reclamation that you have now experienced and share as well, like what you have learned about yourself and how you are excited to move forward. And so that's going to be a really beautiful ceremony. Artual. I love to call them artuals.
Artuals. I love that. Well, it's clear you're so fun and empowering to be with, and clearly have the depth of practice to really transmit some powerful liberations for people. So I know it's going to be not only fun, but really deeply transformational journey for everybody. So again, the whole program is laid out with more detail. It's sacredpaintingcourse.com, sacredpaintingcourse.com. So we just heard about the 7 90-minute live sessions, which are all going to be, you can ask your questions live, engage in practices together. It'll be a lot of fun to sort of engage together. You'll also get recordings of every session, both video and audio, which are really great. You can go back and redo modules that you might want to repeat for whatever reason. You also get word-for-word transcripts. There's weekly practices for home. Sounds like once your creative expression is really liberated, you might do a lot of that weekly practice at home. There's a community group to support you and deepen your experience. And on the page, there's also a number of extra bonuses that Whitney has added. There's a special video teaching called Special Orientation for Beginner Painters. Sounds like that addresses the concern. You just don't even know the first steps. Do you want to share a little bit more about that video?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're joining me and you like haven't painted since you were a kid, like I hadn't when I opened my art center, I created a video that will help you get out of the fear before the first class even starts, while also understanding more about the acrylic paints that we'll be using and how those work. So by the time you watch that orientation, you'll be ready to go and super excited.
Cool. Then there's a 3-part video workshop called the Rise Above Master Class. Want to share more about that one too?
Yeah, this is a really simple and accessible way to coach yourself, to tune in. When you hear things about like something isn't happening in your life that you've been intending for a while and it's not happening, usually it's because there's a limiting belief there, right? There's a discordance. And so this process is one where you get to identify at the canvas where you are perhaps unintentionally and subconsciously blocking what it is you want to create. So it's a simple, lovely self-coaching practice that you'll be able to use over and over and over again.
Sounds super cool. And then I also just want to bring attention to one extra bonus, which is maybe my favorite because it's also with somebody I love, Dr. Marie Mbuni. It's called Painting in Your Shamanic Self. This is a video conversation and audio interview between Whitney and Dr. Marie Mbuni, who also teaches for Shift. I'll share a little bit more about that bonus. It's a special bonus folks get if you sign up by midnight tonight.
Oh, absolutely. So if you do know Maria Booney, or if you don't, anyway, you want to, she is one of my best friends, and I, without a doubt, in my heart, know she is a walking master. She and I met in 2014, and and she shares in this video how she was like, well, I can't paint, I can't draw, I can't even draw a stick figure. She started painting with me and has used the painting practice in her shamanic practice, in her shamanic coaching. You can only imagine a paintbrush in that woman's hands has been very transformational. And I had the pleasure of reintroducing her to her creative spirit. So we share a little of that story and the benefits we talk about in coding, for example, which we're going to explore as well in this course.
Super cool. Well, it's clearly going to be an amazing program, and you're a very empowering person to be around. And I know it's going to be a lot of fun as well. So again, it's all at sacredpaintingcourse.com. We've kept the investment very accessible for this. It's just 3 payments of $128, or you save 10% when you pay in full with one payment of $349. The course is going to start January 15th and run Thursdays at 5 Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. But even if you can't make those live times, you can still fully participate with the recordings, the transcripts in the community as well, and you can really take these practices on as your own. And some beautiful testimonials that are also listed on the page. Whitney's an incredible mentor, one of the most inspiring humans I know. Great things that people have said about her empowering teaching and presence. So you are in really good hands, and you get to harvest a journey of transformation that spans several decades, and you're going to get to be really open to creative self in a deeper way as part of your spiritual life, and really paint yourself a new life and new mentality as an artist, which is really such a blessing. So again, it's all at sacredpaintingcourse.com, and you'll get that special bonus with Whitney and Maria Mbuni when you sign up by midnight tonight, which is called Painting and Your Shamanic Self. So Whitney, truly joyful to be with you. It's been such a pleasure. Anything that's still on your heart you want to share with folks who are considering doing the full course with you?
I want to remind everyone that 2026, if you add up 2 and 2 and 6, we get to 1. So 2026 is the beginning of a new 9-year cycle, which means it is the time to plant seeds of things that you want to create into the art that is your life in the next 9 years, which I don't know about you all, but it feels like a big 9 years for me. And I am doing all kinds of painting to make sure that I enter into and kick off this new 9-year cycle with my full creative frequency on board. So just know that if you feel fear or resistance to the painting, I mean, clearly you're attracted to it, right? And the fear is perfect. The fear is simply your logical mind not knowing what is going to happen on the other side. I firmly believe that the reason most people are afraid of painting at the canvas is because it is transformational, because it is going to shift subtle choices, energies, perspectives in your life that over the course of the next 9 years is going to lead to dramatic shifts that are in alignment with your heart. So, so just please don't waste the energies of 2026 and January. And however you do it, please bring into resonance, like align with the statement, I am creative.
Beautiful. Well, I like the invocation of a whole larger cycle of activation, that we are all creative and that we can be a channel for beautiful new things into the world, and that painting can be one of our beautiful practices to do so. So thank you for opening that pathway today with all your wisdom and warmth. And thank you so much for working with us. And thank you all for joining. And we warmly invite you to join Whitney for her brand new course. And again, that's all at sacredpaintingcourse.com. And the name of the course, again, is Heal Through Sacred Painting, Transform Your Creativity Wounds and Heal Your Heart to Claim Your Power to Shape the Future. And you'll get the special bonus with Whitney and Maria Mbuni when you sign up by midnight tonight on Painting in Your Shamanic Self. So thank you so much. Many blessings.